Would you believe it? It's RaceSpot Friday night prime time again. It's another Friday, whether it's the afternoon, the evening, or the middle of the night for you. It's time for more RaceSpot Friday night prime time Clio Cup racing. This time, we come to you live from the land of this beautiful bronze bull. It's what else but the Red Bull Ring, deep in the Styrian mountains of Spielberg, Austria. We're going to take some very tiny cars around a very high-speed circuit. My name is Joey Tebben. I'm joined here in the commentary booth by my co-commentator, Mr. Zach Sweeney, and behind the scenes is our producer, Iku Merikalla. So, Zach, it's Red Bull Ring time. I think I summarized it pretty well. Tiny cars at a big track. That's always a recipe for success.
I mean, you think back all the way to round number 1 when we went to Spa, and me and Cam were sort of just like, is this going to work? Is it really? I mean, these cars are tiny, and you've got a massive Grand Prix circuit where the majority of it you are spent with your foot to the floor. Very similar situation here with the Red Bull Ring, albeit a lot shorter and not obviously in the Ardennes Forest, here in the Styrian Mountains instead. But it's a very similar situation where it's a fast circuit, quite undulating as well. But we were surprised at Spa, and honestly, after last week when obviously you and Will took to Laguna Seca, I was like, I get to commentate on the Red Bull Ring with some Clios next week. That is going to be a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to the next 15 minutes of racing, that's for sure.
As am I. It's been a very fun season so far. Like you said, Laguna Seca last week, very, very different. Tsukuba the week before, even more different. But we have traveled to some very large and high-speed tracks. There was, of course, Spa in week 1, Monza, which was a fantastic race a couple of weeks later, where Lishkowicz came out on top. Okayama and VIR were fantastic in their own right as well. Next week, we travel to one of the newest tracks on iRacing over in Norway at Rudskogen, Lime Rock Park. That's going to be some high-speed racing there, as is Olton Park. And then where else could we finish out the season but one of the iRacing stalwarts at Summit Point Raceway. Everybody's driven it. A lot of people had their first rookie races ever on iRacing at Summit Point, and we will finish out the season in the first couple of days of June there in a couple of weeks' time. And we do have Drivers' Championship standings for you, by the way. It's been an interesting season because nobody has really made all of the races, but it's Adai Koba Lopez on top of the iRacing official point standings for this series so far. Danny Martin and then Gines Ruiz Nunez behind him. It's looking like it would be between Adai Koba Lopez and Danny Martin for the moment, but neither of them are in the field tonight, so it'll be anybody's chance. Alex Rogers, who sits in P8 in the championship, in the field tonight. So we'll see if he can pick up some good points for himself there. No Daniel Dinsdale, no Victor Martinez-Burgos, Javier Sanchez, Fabio Zamperlini, Ruben Corrales, or Loic Barbet. We've seen a couple of those guys over the course of the season, but none of them tonight other than Mr. Alex Rogers. Qualifying is currently underway on track at the Red Bull Ring for the moment, and it's another new name. It's Alfonso Urrutia Mulas, the one car in this split. Understandably, putting on pole for the moment, but there's still 2 minutes 20 to go, and drivers are running out of time if they want to get a lap time on the board.
Yeah, they are. I mean, obviously, when it comes to iRacing, as soon as the timer ticks 0, it doesn't matter where you are on the circuit. It's like, unlucky, mate, you're going to be thrown back into the pit lane. That is exactly where you are going to start, wherever your best time before that put you in. You get 2 laps around the Red Bull Ring in order to set your time as well. And Alex Rogers moves his way up into second place. But a fantastic showing so far from Mulas, it must be said. 7.2k in iRating. Sizably clear of anyone else in the field by a good about 2,500 iRating. I think Alex Rogers is second in that regard. He's got 4.8k. So yeah, seems that Alfonso is probably the expected showcase today in terms of his pace. But when it comes to qualifying at the Red Bull Ring, it's not really the be-all and end-all. You can very easily overtake and, mitigate some disadvantages purely with the copious amounts of slipstream, the back-to-back straights that you get from turns 10 to 1, 1 to 3, and 3 to 4. You can stay quite close, and, even if you're not the quickest in the corners, like, the rest of the field are relative to Mulas, I'm still certain we could definitely still have a very interesting fight for the race lead.
Just saw Georg Matushinsky go up to P4. Good lap from him. Javier Almeida did cross the line with 1 minute 55 to go. At a track where lap times are at their best in the low 148s, at their worst in the 153s, I think he definitely will make it to the line, but he has waited until the absolute last second here. He's got to nail this lap if he wants to put a good lap time on the board. It's looked pretty comfortable so far. I haven't seen any off tracks so far. He's keeping it just within the limits, but he's racing against the clock to the line.
Yeah, absolutely, and obviously putting a lot of pressure on this final lap. Not only does it put the pressure on the singular lap, it also puts the pressure in terms of the time restraints. He might not be able to get to the line. We're confident he might, but the pressure definitely is going to be on his shoulders. 2 more corners left to go, and even if it's just a middle of the range time, a safe lap time, it's better than nothing. And in a field as stacked and as close as this, it's going to be the best that he's going to ask for. Through turn number 10, and the run to the line. Where is Almeida going to put his car? Is it going to be anywhere inside the top 10? It's a very, very competitive field across the line, and Javier Almeida will see himself nowhere.
P9.
Oh, no,
not bad. In the dying seconds, puts himself P9 for the 16 car. That is a pretty good accomplishment there, hitting 7 spots ahead of his weight there. But we are ready to grid up here, and we do have an 18-car field ready for us tonight, headed by Iberia's own Alfonso Urrutia Mulas. Alex Rogers, who's been with us basically all season, starts his outside. It's Jose Miguel Galilea alongside Georg Matushinsky on row number 2. Demis Tichelar on row number 3 alongside Daniel Nadal Mayorgas. And P7 went to Anthony Straitman. Me adjusts to 8th place, and Javier Almeida and Dylan Freckleton make up row number 5. Matthias Steinbuch and Michael Berthaud on row number 6, 11th and 12th. And unlucky 13th, unfortunately, went to Paolo Miniti. He's going to hope that is no bad luck for him. That's Thiago da Silva 14th. Everybody's favorite name in the field, it's James Shrimpton 15th, alongside everybody's second favorite name, it's Carol Carroll. Then everybody's third favorite name, Vincent Tablet and Feher Tamas, round out the field of 18 Clios here. A lot of great names. That's one of the best things about Friday Night Primetime. It's not a league situation, so we see different drivers every single week, and sometimes you get great names like Shrimpton to amuse yourself a little bit.
Oh, 100%. You wouldn't want it any other way. Obviously, Primetime is the community-based thing. You guys at home voted for the series that we took to for this season and the season before. The seasons before that, you voted on a week-by-week basis, and it just gives you that say. And as Joe said, it just allows you to explore and take to different things. But well, here we go. We're going to find out which of these interesting names are going to take the top spot today.
17 Clios taken to the grid, 1 didn't, but the lights are up and they are out. Alfonso Urrutia Mulas takes us to green at the Red Bull Ring, and we are green in the Renault Clio Cup on Friday Night Primetime. It's a single file run into turn 1 for the top 3 and for the top 4 for that matter. It's a very tight corner though, a couple drivers at the back trying to take advantage, cutting the inside of turn 1 a little bit, but for the most part we're clean through turn 1.
We are indeed, and now it's the rush up towards turn number 3 that really starts to matter. Mulas was clear of Rogers in terms of a 5/10 gap in qualifying, but that has been mitigated now in the race. Outside line in towards turn number 3, blipping his way through in the Quadrant Liberty car, but Mulas is able to hold on for now. The switchback, though, from the number 2 machine, he might well have the drag race, but this is a 3-car fight for the lead in the early stages.
A little bit blinky there for Alex Rogers. That's not going to help anything. I think there may have been a little bit of argy-bargy in the back also at turn 3. I think Shrimpton and Tablet may have gotten into trouble here, but side-by-side into Schlosshold corner. I got to get those syllables right, but Mulas and Matushinsky were side-by-side for the moment. Now he's side-by-side with Alex Rogers, who takes second back.
Yeah, great stuff, and it's going to be back and forth for the majority of the session. I'm sure you can have that. Look into the inside through turn number 6. No way through as Rogers holds his line quite firmly. You've got Galilea and Ticolar as well just in the background. This is, what, a 5-car fight separated by not really that much at all. But they have to be careful because the more they fight, the more potentially Mulas can use his natural pace and get away. And that is the last thing they want if they want any chance of being victorious come the checkered flag.
Through the final couple of corners here, side by side, further back into the penultimate corner between Steinbuch and Almeida. Almeida's going to hang on around the outside, but look at Dylan Freckleton ahead of both of these guys, very, very wide through the penultimate corner. You've got to be careful to both not accumulate the off tracks. You only get 13 incident points around here, I believe, or you get before you get a drive through. And there's also plenty of opportunities to get slowdowns if you take it too wide around this place. And Freckleton playing with the track limits there at P9.
And again, on the exit of turn number 1 as well, you really do have to be careful. It's the smallest of things, really. The exit of turn 10 through turn number 9, even taking too much curb on the exit of turn number 8, it is so tricky and so easy to accumulate. They add up, of course, and, well, yeah, it's definitely easy to get them. Obviously, contact and things is to be expected also, so got to be careful not to pick up many 4Xs. There's Freckleton, though, very late on the brakes through into turn number 3. Catches Almeida off just a little bit and might put him on the back foot. And that's the thing about the circuit and these cars in particular as well. The dynamic of racing is really momentum based. So you've got to be careful not to chip up over each other. Otherwise, you risk the driver behind getting a really good run and sending you into some corners. But people really struggling in terms of brakes. A lot of tire smoke being kicked up.
We're smoking those Clios, and I did misspeak earlier. It's 17 incident points. I had league racing on the mind with that 13 incident point limit. You do get 17 to play with. In a 15-minute race, I hope you're not accumulating 17 incident points, but this is a grade 1 track. This is a place that's very famous for having those tricky areas for the off-track. So you do definitely need to know your limits to know what you can take advantage of around here.
100%. It's just knowing, the track and the car. Front wheel drive, obviously, so naturally the car is going to want to drift out to the outside. The front tyres are doing the powering and the steering and quite the majority of the braking force as well. There's a lot that goes through the front tyres in these Clios, so you can naturally expect them to run a little bit wide. You do have to be careful, drive within the limits, because while yes, you want to go as quickly as you can, and while you might be able to gain a little bit by going off, the loss of that mitigates that entirely, and you could very easily lose 2, 3, 4 places when it comes to races like this, because look at it, it's almost essentially like you're racing on an oval when you come to the Red Bull Ring.
Bad news for Javier Almeida enthusiasts. We saw him flying off the road in the penultimate corner. You see him in the background of the shot there. He's lost multiple spots as Steinbuck and Freckleton go side by side. The 4 car versus the 13 car. One of these guys punching above his weight as they enter turn number 3 up the hill, hard in the brakes. Steinbuck trying to go around the outside. It's easier than you'd think to do around that corner, but it does not work out for him. Freckleton pinches him out wide. Freckleton's going to hang on for the moment, but these guys are fighting as hard as humanly possible for P9. Freckleton's going to hang on for the moment, but Steinbuck's not giving up.
Absolutely, it's fantastic racing between the pair of them. Fantastic respect given as well as Justin Straitman also fighting up for P7 just ahead of them. So very much is a fight side by side between the pair of them as well. You can see Mia Justin, the number 6 machine, takes to the inside through the infield section. The white number 9 machine of Straitman tries to go the long way round, but it's always going to be a difficult endeavour. It's always easier to try and get back underneath your rival. Looking to the inside, definitely having a look there, and we're seeing the absolute best from these guys. They're absolutely not giving an inch. It's really his just gloves off racing.
Yeah, and now that Anthony Straitman has found himself behind Mia Just, well, first and foremost, let's take a look at what happened to Paolo Meniti. How did he end up at the back of the field? I think this may actually be from lap 1, or a little bit earlier on in the race at least. Yeah, lap 1 it is. There's a dive to the inside. Was there a little bit of contact that we didn't see? Yes, there was. That looked like a little bit like a road car crash there, just not turning. That was the 10 car of Mikel Berto, who just kind of barrels into the side of Paolo Meniti.
I mean, it's easily done. Cold tyres, open and lap, overwhelmed by a lot of cars around you, but, you've got to factor that into where you're going to brake for the first time. As a bit of a bump tap from the 16 machine of Almeida onto the rear end of Carroll just in front. But yeah, obviously, you've got to be careful, you've got to be cautious and not smack into anyone. And unfortunately, that has tarnished Berto's run. But here we go, bit of maybe even 3 wide. No, they're not going to quite get that, but side by side between the blue and the white car in towards turn number 3, uphill braking, and Berto is going to be brave, and outside line for Almeida, sees him swoop that Clio up ahead and up in the 12th place. That's brilliantly done and capitalised on the fact that Berto had to brake really hard and almost stop on the apex of 3.
Still quite the hornet's nest up front here. Mulas has not been able to pull out of draft range. He's been slowly extending that gap every single lap, but it's still only about 0.8 of a second. Alex Rogers is still within range. Marushinsky and Galilea are also in the train of sorts, but they are just in that critical zone of they're so close to losing the draft of Alfonso Urrutia altogether that they can't afford to race each other, because that's going to eliminate any chance of the win.
absolutely. They've got to be very careful. Taking another look back to lap number 1, that's Maniti after getting smacked into. Unfortunately, couldn't quite find his left foot into turn number 4. Gets the run from the very extravagant Mario liveried car, who looks to the inside, and then they go 3 wide through the infields. Oh, yeah, well, yeah, that is... Well, I don't even know what to say to that, Joey. You could just see it coming from a mile away.
You could. That was our old buddy Vincent Tablet on the inside, and the Mario car is poor old James Shrimpton, who was our first DNF of the race. He decided that there was a little bit too much damage from that accident, and that is going to be it for him. You see side by side a little bit further back, Mayorgas and Teek Shalar side by side coming up the hill as Galilea tries to challenge Matushinsky and Almeida and Carroll making a new track over there in turn 1. It's like the MotoGP long lap penalty out there. Both of them went for it.
Yeah, well, if you want a longer pitch straight into a hairpin, just say so. You don't need to make it yourself. Inside, outside, ducking, diving. Which way do you want to go? Carroll is giving it absolutely everything. Which way do you want to park the car? I feel so bad for trying to go to the outside. That was, well, a bit out of order for Tablet, who is trying tooth and nail to find a way through. But, well, that is... I don't really know. He's under the influence of something, Joey, and, well, I want a bit.
Yeah, this is, sometimes we talk about the Pruitt fade in racing, where a driver fades over to the left, goes for a little bit of a block into a braking zone, but this is a little bit more than a fade. Carroll is, he's going to be making Vincent Tablet sing some carols back there, because it is an absolute block fest out here. I don't know what you do when there's a driver like that, because Vincent Tablet clearly wants to get by. He's going to try and go by in his favorite corner here, where he caused a little bit of trouble earlier, but Carroll turns in, and I think he just reached the incident limit. That was 17 incident points for Carroll. Carroll, he is out of here. Vincent Tablet gets through, but he's going to get 4x for that as well.
I mean, that's one way to get rid of him, is to make them completely disappear, I suppose. Bibbidi bobbidi boo, and Tablet got his wish of getting rid of Carroll. But yeah, well, that's one way to move your way up into the top 11. Again, obviously, Carroll wasn't doing the cleanest standard of driving, so I can understand Tablet being a bit argy-bargy. You kind of have to be, but focus on some of the live action here. We've got Ticula versus Mayorgas into turn number 1. The fight for the top 5. They've been dropped a little bit by the 4-car train for what could very easily spark itself into a fight for the lead. But here we go. Mayorgas found the inside line, and well, now he's just got to commit on the brakes as they ride up the hill.
Daniel Nadal Mayorgas in the more Spanish liveried Clio, and Demis Tichalar. Actually, it's the other way around, rather. I was confused by the club there, but Mayorgas does get to the inside in that dark blue and red Clio. And that will be Daniel Nadal Mayorgas ahead of Tichalar for the moment. But as these two continue to fight, look who that is behind them. Mia Just has absolutely gapped Anthony Straightman, and this could very well be a 3-car battle for the end of the top 5 here in a matter of moments as Tichalar thinks about a dive into turn 2. Can't quite do it, though.
Yeah, well, absolutely. A little bit wide from Mayorgas. Could see the number 7 machine nip his way up the inside. But, of course, the top 5, that's where the threshold for iRacing to count it on your stat sheet is for. So they're all going to want to fight for it. They're all going to want to get themselves into the top 5 because it just sounds nicer. It's a nice milestone to have. And there we go. Mia Just has given it their absolute all in terms of closing the gap. Brilliant stuff. And the 2 very different Renaults in the livery that's on the car and then the ones that they're actually driving. So, you know, trying to use the livery to gain a couple of extra horsepowers, I think. But, well, there we go. Closing in just that little bit. And once you're in the slipstream range, once you're in a 3-way fight like this, there's almost no getting rid of each other. They're going to be locked in this for the remainder of this race.
And they can't really end the battle because either way, Mia Just is closing this down. We ride on board with Tichalar, who didn't have a great exit out of the final corner there. It's going to scupper his run just a little bit, but it is going to give the draft to the number 6 car right behind. I think we can officially say this is a 3-car battle now. Coming through turn 1, Tichalar's going to clonk the first curb, clonk the second curb, and he's lost a little bit of progress here, and he's going to have to start looking in his rearview mirror soon.
Yeah, I do love the good old sausage clubs that we've got here at Austria. It's fantastic. Yeah, awesome stuff. Yeah.
I did notice that I said club instead of curb. That's my first club of the day.
Well, yeah. Well, don't club the club, I suppose. There's a little bit lock up from Mayorgas, allows Tichalar to maybe close the gap just a little bit. It's easily done when you're trying to talk very quickly. Honestly, we're all victim of it. It's just always funny when we pick up on the little nuances that we all make. It's great. But yeah, well, as you say, this is now a 3-car fight. If they continue to fight, Bit of a long shot, but could we see a 4-car fight in the form of Straightman? I don't know, just putting that out there. Unfortunately, time is not on our side, and we've only got 3 minutes left. I think that is going to mean that next lap is the penultimate way around. And, well, Alfonso Urita Mulas has controlled the pace quite well, but respect to Alex Rogers, considering the deficit in qualifying, he's done a really good job of keeping the #1 machine on its toes.
He's closed the gap down little by little. There's been about half tenths. There's been full tenths. I think if we're expecting a battle for the lead, we might need to curb our enthusiasm a little bit, but I'm not counting anything else out here. If Alex Rogers can have an absolutely fantastic last couple of laps and just get himself within that half second, 6/10 of a second range, which he's done right there, that was a great final quarter for him, this race for the lead might not be over.
All it takes is one mistake. It is a very short fuse, and all it takes is a small spark, and kaboom, we could well have a titanic finale to this week of Friday Night Primetime. As Dustin Ollis says, the Clio Club Curbs Cup. Try to say that 4 times fast, because I definitely can't. Either way, up the hill once more, and Mulas is definitely looking in his rearview mirrors, looking as to what Alex Rogers is doing. But I guess it's been this way for pretty much the entirety of the race so far. What more can Alex Rogers do? Does he just have to dig deep? Does he just have to go for this end? Maybe he's waiting for that final opportunity where Mulas can't launch the counter-attack. For the majority of the race, you overtake, then they sit back in the slipstream, then they overtake you again, then you overtake them again. You get it done on the last lap. There's not really much more they can do.
There's a critical number for all you ticker watchers over there, though, because it's 0.5, it's 0.4 under braking here at the bottom of the hill. Rogers is closing the gap down. I'm sure if he's watching his relative, he's starting to get a little bit hyped up right now because he's seeing that number go down and down and down. He knows he's getting closer, but it's one thing to get closer. It's another thing to actually make the pass on Alfonso Urrutia Mulas in the lead here. Through the middle sector, Mulas seems very, very strong. He's absolutely got control of that Clio. I almost wonder if he's just backing up the pace a little bit to make sure he can make it to the end, because after one bad lap, he seems to be right back in control.
That's the thing, obviously, you know, you're going to make mistakes. You're only a human. It's the way that you bounce back from said mistakes. Maybe Mulas has had a poor lap and, you know, straight away has just thrown it in the bin and said, you know what, now I've just got to build the gap back up again, and that's exactly what he's done. Coming on to the final lap of this race then, the gap just over half a second, a little bit wide from pretty much the entire top 3. Barney the Flagman waving the white flag, strongest right arm in sim racing, side by side through turn number 10 though. Don't see that often. There we go. Mia just moves their way up into 6th place. Unfortunately, Muirgas is, well, pretty much 2 seconds up the road. This is a fight exclusively, unfortunately, only for the top 6.
Yeah, there's not going to be a fight for the top 5 anymore. So for Tisha Lar, he's going to be thinking, let me adjust my goals here. I'll just go for P6 now. But anyway, back up front, Mulas just trying to hang on here for the final couple of miles here. As Javier Almeida, he's had a troubled day. He's finally back on pit lane. That's going to be the end of his day. Alex Rogers, he's going to be getting desperate right now, or he might just be content with second right now. Unless there's a mistake from Mulas, I don't know what more he can do, but he's going to be trying to extract every single tenth he can out of this Clio. It's going to be the fastest Clio in all of Austria on this last lap.
Oh, absolutely. Between the pair of them, they're going to be throwing everything plus the kitchen sink at each other. Nothing is going to be left on the table. All it takes is one mistake from Mulas, and it can very easily be a different story. But they've been on each other's toes, putting each other under so much pressure for the entire race up until now. And, well, fair play to both of them for putting up with the pressure and still delivering in terms of pace. Well done to Galileo as well for, you know, staying with the top 2 as well. And it's been a fantastic fight amongst the mid-pack. But yeah, Mulas just seems to have the measure today, and he's got 2 more corners left to go. If he can keep it nice and tidy, it's his to lose.
The pole sitter, I believe the top driver in the open practice, and 2 corners away from being the winner. It's a highlighter pink and black Clio, and it's been a highlighter day for Alfonso Urrutia Mulas as he rounds the final corner. He's going to win in Friday Night Primetime in the Clio Cup. Alex Rogers gave him everything, but he's going to come home in second, and you don't need a telescope to see Galilea in third. A great race for him as well. Out of the final corner, the battle for P6 is going to come down to the line, but Mia Just is going to hang on. The 6 car finishes in 6th position, and we got a drag race to the line as well back here. Freckleton and Steinbuck, but by 1/10 of a second, it's going to be Freckleton who hangs on to P9.
Yeah, great racing from everyone. Here's Vincent Tablet for P11. You've got Berto just in behind, but it wouldn't be the Red Bull Ring without a drag race to the checkered flag. Brilliant stuff. Here's Silver rounding the final couple of corners as well. It was a very good race, as we say, very interesting, sort of dynamic, very unique dynamic that we've got at the Red Bull Ring. And, well, these Clios just proven how versatile they are, the variety of circuits that we've been to and that we're going to here today as well at the Red Bull Ring added on. It just shows that this car can go anywhere and, well, deliver just as good as racing as it would at the last place.
Maniti, the last driver to cross the line, and here are your finishing results. 9 laps at the Red Bull Ring. Those 15 minutes flew by, and Alfonso Urrutia Mulas flew by everybody, winning over Alex Rogers. Jose Miguel Galilea came home in third. Georg Matushinsky was in the fight for the podium, fell off a little bit at the end. He's still going to be happy with a P4, I think. And Daniel Nadal Mayorgas was comfortably in P5 by the end. Mia Just and Dimitri Hilar had a great battle to the end, and Anthony Straitman was in an island of his own, eventually in 8th as well. Freckleton and Steinbuck rounded out the top 10, and the first driver outside of the top 10 was Vincent Tablet, who had a little bit of bumper car fun so far today. Michael Bertot, P12, ahead of Thiago da Silva, and Paolo Maniti was your last finisher of the race. Javier Almeida, Carroll, James Shrimpton all ran into trouble. They became the used Clio lot, and Faher Tamas did not get off the grid, so he will be credited with an 18th place finish, 10 laps down in a 9-lap race. I don't know how that math works, but poor old Faher Tamas. Maybe he'll be back next week to join us. But that's about it. That race flew by, Zach. It was a fantastic race, as always, on Friday nights here in the Clio Cup, and now all I can do is look forward to next week for even more great racing.
Absolutely, and at Roscogan as well. That'll be a brilliant circuit. I think a great mix for these Clio Cups. Nice, and it's a diverse circuit. It's got a bit of everything. And I, for one, I'm really looking forward to tuning in and watching it. Hopefully, Will be back, and hopefully you ain't got to run off and do something next week, Joey, that I won't have to run in and save your lives. But yeah, I'm looking forward to tuning in because it is always a brilliant display here for Friday Night Prime Time, because week in, week out, they always deliver. And, well, these fans, they know what they're voting for.
And iRacing has done a great job with some of these tracks that they've added recently, because 2 of the most recent tracks were Jerez and Rudskogen, both of which we're going to this season, and both of which have proven to be absolutely phenomenal in any type of car you throw around them. So we hope you'll join us for Rudskogen next week, and we thank you for joining us here tonight. We had a great time at the Red Bull Ring. We only hit a couple of clurbs in the way, and I will be back next week. But for now, for me, for Zach Sweeney, for producer Iku Maricala, we've had a great time bringing RaceSpot Friday Night Prime Time to you. And until we see you next time, so long.